In the murky mists of the 9th century, as Europe trembled under the blows of marauding tribes and new empires began to form, a figure cloaked in myth and legend emerged in the north of what is now Russia. A Varangian chieftain, Rurik, arrives in Novgorod, invited to bring order to the warring Slavic tribes. His arrival is more than a political move, it marks the birth of a dynasty that will shape the future of Russia. Rurik lays the foundation of the principality, asserts control over the north, and begins integrating Slavic and Norse elites. Though historical records are scarce, his legacy endures, for from his line comes everything that follows. Oleg the Wise, Rurik's relative and successor, takes control of Novgorod, and in 882 captures Kiev, declaring it the capital. This act unites north and south, forming Kievan Rus. Oleg leads campaigns against the Khazars and Byzantium and secures a trade treaty with Constantinople in 911, ensuring prosperity. His vision of statehood is etched deeply into the history of Eastern Europe. Igor, son of Rurik, rules in the shadow of his great predecessors. He continues expansionist policies and maintains ties with Byzantium. But ambition proves Vitali's attempt to re-tax the Drevlians in 945 ends in a brutal death. His demise marks a break from old customs and ushers in a new era of rulership. Widow of Grand Prince Igor, Olga rules as regent for their young son Sviatoslav. She becomes the first Russian ruler to convert to Christianity in Constantinople, 957. Her reforms especially tax systems put Rus on a path of modernization. Firm and wise, she avenges her husband's death and is remembered as a strong, decisive leader. Sviatoslav is a warrior of legend. His campaigns crush the Khazar Khaganate, reach the Danube, and strike into the Balkans. "I am coming for you," he warned enemies. Yet, in 972, he falls in a Pecheneg ambush, leaving the realm divided and vulnerable. Yaropolk, son of Sviatoslav, takes Kiev but plunges into a bloody civil war with his brothers Oleg and Vladimir. His reign ends abruptly killed in the struggle for power. His death clears the path for Vladimir the Great. Vladimir becomes Prince of Kiev and transforms Rus forever. In 988, he baptizes Kievan Rus, adopting Christianity as the official religion. Married to a Byzantine princess, he sparks a cultural and spiritual revolution. He builds churches, schools, and promotes literacy. His rule is a golden age of peace and transformation. Known as the Accursed, Sviatopolk murders his brothers Boris and Gleb in a power grab, but his brother Yaroslav defeats him in 1019. His name becomes a byword for treachery. Yaroslav consolidates power, codifies law in Russkaya Pravda, builds churches, and opens the first library. His marriage alliances with European courts boost Rus' prestige. Under him, Kiev flourishes culturally and politically, the Jerusalem of the north. Izyaslav struggles to maintain order among rival princely lines. Deposed and restored multiple times with Polish support, this rule is marked by civil strife and weakening central power. Vsevolod tries to stabilize the state. His greatest legacy is preparing his son, Vladimir Monomakh, for future rule. Though short, his reign is relatively calm. Sviatopolk faces revolts and nomadic invasions. Unable to halt economic decline or political disorder, he becomes unpopular. His death marks the end of a troubled era. Monomakh rises on a wave of public support. He enacts reforms, strengthens law, repels steppe raids, and restores dignity to the principality. Educated, wise, and a brilliant generally, is the ruler the people needed. Mstislav, Monomakh's son, is the last great ruler of a united Rus. His death sparks an era of feudal division and internal conflict. Unity fractures as princes grow increasingly independent. In a time of disintegration, Yaropolk tries to hold the state together, but his decisions spark more conflicts, especially with the powerful princes of Chernigov and Novgorod. Kiev's authority wanes. A prince of the Chernigov branch, Vsevolod's rule is marked by competition among nobles. He tries to secure his dynasty's future, but fails to leave a lasting legacy. Izyaslav seeks peace among the warring princes, but struggles to impose unity. His reign is one of compromise and fragile stability. Unpopular due to his northern roots, he is rejected by the people. He dies, suddenly likely poisoned. Son of Yuri Dolgoruki, Andrei moved the seat of power from Kiev to Vladimir in 1157. He envisioned a northern capital, building churches, palaces, and fortresses to rival the Old South. In 1169, he shocked Rus by sacking Kiev not to rule it, but to dethrone its symbolic power. Vladimir was now the heart of a new Rus. Calling himself ruler of all Rus, he ruled like a monarch, sparking anger among the boyars. In 1174, they assassinated him, but his legacy endured, the rise of the north and the fall of Kiev's supremacy. Vsevolod, son of Yuri Dolgorukii, rose as Grand Prince of Vladimir after the death of his brother. Nicknamed Big Nest for his many children, he ruled with strength and vision. He centralized power in the northeast, turning Vladimir into the true heart of Rus. While Kiev decayed in chaos, Vsevolod built cathedrals, led military campaigns, and silenced rebellious boyars. He crushed rivals from Ryazan and Novgorod, expanded eastward, and promoted order through firm governance. Vsevolod rejected the idea of shared rule, believing only one prince should lead all Rus. His court was disciplined, his military feared. Under his reign, Vladimir reached its golden age. By the time of his death in 1212, Vsevolod had transformed a principality into a powerful state ready to face the storm of Mongol invasion that loomed just beyond the horizon. Son of Vsevolod the Big Nest, Yuri II inherited a strong and centralized state. He ruled from Vladimir, not Kiev, reflecting the shift of power in Rus. Determined and capable, he fortified borders, dealt with rebellious princes, and upheld his father's legacy. But in 1237, the Mongols arrived. Batu Khan's forces swept across the land with fire and steel. Yuri tried to resist, but his army was crushed at the Battle of the Sit River in 1238. He was killed in battle, his head sent to the Mongol Khan. His death marked not just the fall of a prince, but the collapse of independent Rus before the Mongol yoke. A capable ruler, caught in a storm no one could stop. Yaroslav III ruled briefly during the post-Mongol chaos. His reign was unstable and largely overshadowed by stronger rivals. Andrei II, son of Vsevolod the Big Nest, ruled Vladimir from 1248 to 1252. His reign was marked by struggles against Mongol pressure and internal instability, ending abruptly with his sudden death in 1252. Alexander Nevsky, son of Yaroslav II, became Grand Prince of Novgorod in 1252. Renowned for his victories over the Swedes and Teutonic Knights, he chose pragmatic diplomacy with the Mongols, ensuring the survival of his principality under their rule. Daniel Ver, son of Alexander Nevsky, became the first Prince of Moscow in 1276. He established Moscow as a key center of power, laying the foundations for its future dominance in Russia. After being granted the Principality of Moscow by his brother, Daniel worked to solidify Moscow's position among the competing Rus principalities. Though Moscow was small, Daniel's diplomacy and strategic alliances helped strengthen the town. He carefully navigated Mongol rule, ensuring Moscow's survival without direct confrontation. Daniel focused on building a strong foundation for the future, fortifying his territory and establishing Moscow as an emerging center of power. His reign, marked by pragmatic governance, set the stage for the city's rise in the coming centuries. Daniel died in 1303, leaving a legacy of stability and growth for his successors. Yuri continued his father's work in strengthening Moscow's position, expanding its territories and influence. His reign was marked by persistent conflict with rival principalities, including Tver, as well as his struggles to maintain good relations with the Mongols. Yuri's efforts to secure Moscow's dominance led to significant territorial gains, but his rivalry with Tver eventually resulted in his death in battle in 1325. Despite his early death, Yuri's rule contributed to laying the groundwork for Moscow's eventual rise as the dominant power in Russia. Known as Ivan Kalita, he strengthened Moscow through strategic alliances with the Mongols and by accumulating wealth. Ivan's diplomatic skill earned him the title of Grand Prince of Vladimir, increasing Moscow's influence and laying the foundation for its future dominance. He died in 1340, leaving a stronger, more unified Moscow. Known as Simeon the Proud, he maintained Moscow's dominance and upheld his father's legacy. His reign was cut short by the Black Death, which claimed his life in 1353. Ivan II, son of Simeon, ruled from 1353 to 1359. A cautious and peace-oriented ruler, he avoided major conflicts and focused on preserving stability. Though less assertive than his predecessors, he kept Moscow intact during a turbulent time. Dmitry I. Donskoy, son of Ivan II, ruled from 1359 to 1389. Ascending the throne as a child, Dmitry faced internal unrest and external threats, including pressure from the Mongol Golden Horde. As he matured, he strengthened Moscow and led efforts to unite the Russian principalities. His greatest legacy was the Battle of Kulikovo in 1380, where he led a coalition of Russian forces to a historic victory against the Mongols, marking the first major blow to their dominance over Rus. Though the horde retaliated shortly after, Dmitri's victory inspired hope for liberation. He was the first prince buried in the Kremlin, symbolizing Moscow's growing central role. Vasili I, son of Dmitri Donskoy, ruled from 1389 to 1425. Inheriting the throne during a fragile peace, Vasili focused on diplomacy to preserve Moscow's gains. He maintained a delicate balance with the Mongol Khanate, recognizing their authority while subtly expanding Moscow's influence. Through careful marriages and alliances, he extended his territory and strengthened Moscow's position among the Rus lands. His reign saw continued economic growth and consolidation of power, despite periodic threats from rivals and the Mongols. By the end of his rule, Moscow had grown in strength, setting the stage for the rise of a more independent Russian state. Vasili II, son of Vasili I, ruled from 1425 to 1462. His reign was marked by a brutal and prolonged civil war known as the Feudal War, fought against his uncle and later his cousin over succession rights. Blinded during the conflict, Vasili II still managed to reclaim and hold power, earning the nickname Vasili the Blind. Despite decades of chaos, he ultimately preserved the unity of the Grand Duchy of Moscow. His resilience in the face of adversity laid the groundwork for the centralization of power under his son, Ivan III. Ivan III, known as Ivan the Great, ruled from 1462 to 1505 and transformed Moscow from a regional principality into a sovereign and powerful state. Under Ivan's leadership, Moscow broke free from Mongol dominance. In 1480, he faced down the Great Horde at the Ugra River, ending over 2 centuries of Mongol ruler moment seen as the birth of Russian independence. Ivan tripled the territory of the state through conquest, marriage, and diplomacy, incorporating Novgorod, Tver, and other key lands into his domain. He centralized authority, weakened the power of the boyars, and reformed administration, setting the foundations of autocracy. Ivan adopted the title Grand Prince of all Rus and introduced Byzantine court rituals after marrying Sophia Paleologina, niece of the last Byzantine emperor, laying ideological roots for Moscow as the Third Rome. His reign marked the rise of a unified Russian state, both politically and culturally, and left behind a powerful, centralized Moscow ready to become an empire. Vasili III, son of Ivan the Great, ruled from 1505 to 1533. He continued his father's work by expanding Moscow's territory, annexing Pskov, Smolensk, and Ryazan. A firm and autocratic ruler, Vasili strengthened central authority and paved the way for his son, Ivan IV, the future first Tsar of Russia. Ivan IV, known as Ivan the Terrible, ruled from 1533 to 1584 as the first crowned Tsar of all Russia, and his reign marked both the rise of the Russian Empire and the onset of violent autocracy. Crowned Tsar in 1547, Ivan aimed to centralize power and modernize the state. His early reign was guided by reforms. He established a council of nobles, Zemsky Sobor, reformed the military, created a new law code, and strengthened the central bureaucracy. He expanded Russian territory significantly, conquering the Khanates of Kazan and Astrakhan, opening the way to Siberia and transforming Russia into a multi-ethnic empire. However, his reign took a darker turn after the death of his beloved wife, Anastasia. Consumed by paranoia and convinced of betrayal, Ivan created the Oprichnina separate territory under his direct rule, enforced by a brutal secret police. Thousands were executed, including boyars, clergy, and civilians. In 1570, he launched a horrific massacre in Novgorod, fearing treason. His violent temper culminated in the tragic killing of his own son and heir, in a fit of rage. Despite his cruelty, Ivan left a lasting legacy. He elevated Russia to the status of a centralized empire, expanded its borders dramatically, and instilled the notion of absolute Tsarist rule. He died in 1584, leaving a weakened dynasty and a country on the brink of chaos, the time of troubles. The end of the Rurik dynasty, which ruled Russia from its founding until 1598, marked a period of significant political and social turmoil. The last ruler of the Rurik family, Fyodor I, was the son of Ivan IV, Ivan the Terrible. However, Fyodor was weak, mentally unstable, and lacked political power. During his reign, 1584–1598, real authority rested with the boyars, and Russia faced economic crisis, political instability, and growing discontent. Upon Fyodor's death in 1598, the Rurik dynasty came to an end as there were no direct heirs capable of ruling. This led to the Time of Troubles, 1598–1613, a period marked by chaos, internal strife, foreign interventions, and a struggle for power among various factions and claimants to the throne. The end of the Rurik dynasty marked the beginning of a new political era for Russia. In 1613, Mikhail Romanov, a member of the Romanov family, was elected as Tsar, thus beginning the Romanov dynasty, which would rule Russia until 1917. The Romanovs restored stability to the country and helped transform Russia into one of the most powerful empires in the world.